Okay, so I'm here today looking at the Symphony IO Mark 1, changing the cards in this and putting it into the IO Mark 2 chassis. Now, I've had this for a while now, probably well over 10 years anyway, but it started to have some compatibility issues with the latest versions of Mac OS. So it's time to change. You can get new cards, but they're a fortune, and I already have purchased these cards, and I don't think there's a gigantic difference. Probably are better in terms of clarity and stuff, but not that much better that I want to spend the money on them right now. So I've got 16 by 16 analog in and out, and I've got the 2 by 6, which is analog but has SPDIF connections as well. For what I know, this actually has to be in input 2 now, and this in card slot 1. So I'm just going to go ahead and start changing these out. I have brought along now, I'm probably going to get beat up in the comments for this, but I've got this old static wristband thing that I've had for years. Probably had this since I changed the RAM on one of my first PCs, and that was like almost 30 years ago, I think, like, or 20 odd years, like 25 years ago, I can't remember, a long time ago, when it was like upgrading it from 16 megabytes of RAM to 64 megabytes of RAM or something like that, something ridiculous. So I'm going to use this thing, see how it goes. I don't know if it really helps, but I guess better to have it and not need it, and need it not have it, that sort of thing. So I'll put that on just now. There's some screws at the back here I need to take out. To pick up a smaller screwdriver. Get these screws out. That's those wee screws there. Now, I think I might need to take the screws out of these rack ears as well. I'm not too sure. I'm going to try and first of all just take all the screws out of the unit. I actually think I do need to take these rack screws out, which is a wee bit annoying. These here are holding the rack ears on. I think I probably need to take them out as well, which I'll do just now. Right, so now that we've got the screws out, in theory this casing should come off. There we go. That's inside of the unit there. I mean, a lot to it, to be fair. Not too dusty inside, thankfully. Looks pretty good. I'll actually grab a duster for it and give it a quick clean off, see if I've got that handy. Should have. Okay, so I've got a wee duster. This wee thing that you've maybe seen on the channel before. The Nightcore Dust Buster Bad Boy. I can't remember what it's called, but it's awesome anyway. This bar has to come off. Put this wee thing on now, ground myself to the case. Don't know what difference that'll make, but it's definitely worth being careful with. And we'll take this wee bar off here in the centre. Okay, so I need to keep these ribbon cables. I don't know if I'll need a spudger for these, if I can just tease it off. Oh, there we go. Okay, that's that ribbon cable. I hadn't connected the other card that was in here because it was some thermal problems when you had two cards connected. I'll put the screws that I need, I'll put over this side so I know where they are. Hopefully remove these screws. I'm also going to remove the screws that are holding the board into the card slot. I think all the screws are the same, but just in case, I'll keep them separate. Now, I was a bit bummed out when I got this because it was quite an expensive upgrade just for a chassis to move from the Mark 1 to the Mark 2, and I put it off for ages, but it's becoming more problematic now to software upgrades and stuff, which I do think is a bit of a bummer, to be honest. I think Apogee could have still supported this USB model, but I've had to get Thunderbolt of the Mark 2, but the Thunderbolt is Thunderbolt 2, and we're now up to Thunderbolt 5, so I think that's pretty disappointing, to be fair, but that's what it is. So that's what I need to use. So before I move this, I'm going to find a place to put this card, so I'll do that just now. In fact, because that's the first one coming out, what I might do is just get the Mark II chassis ready to go just now, move this one down, I can take the card and just swap it right in. Okay, so there's the Mark II. Quite a nice unit. Quite a bit lighter actually, but I suppose it doesn't have the cards in yet, so that might be why. I've taken some of the screws out of this already, so I'm just sitting with a couple of screws to take out. A bit less hassle with the casing this time, and I don't think you have that centre bar to deal with as far as I'm aware. Cool, and you'll be able to see here the difference. That's the whole control section here, which is smaller. It's quite a bit smaller. The board is about maybe half the size of what the other one is. Now I think I need to take all these mounting screws out, so I just think I take these out first of all. Again, I don't know if I'm going to need these as such. I might need them for the top card though, in fairness. My cable there's quite in the road. That there's the Thunderbolt card. You can see here it says Thunderbolt card. There is another option card here. I guess you would put, I think there's Dante and there's some sort of Pro Tools Avid thing or something like that. I'm pretty sure there's some other cards, but Thunderbolt was the only one that made sense for my setup, so that's what I honed in on. That's that. Right, so that's the first card out, the 16 by 16. What I need to do first is take the blanking plate off, which I should have done first. I'm just taking both blanking plates off for now because I may as well get them out. Okay, so that's this board going in now. To work out how to manoeuvre it in without dropping it, I guess. Like I say, that wee cable there, I actually just move that. There we go. Right, so that's that in place. What I'll do is the screws that come out of the blanking plate I'll put back in here to hold the card in place first and foremost. Now, for what I know, that goes into slot 1. I hope I'm right, because I can't be bothered moving about. I don't know if I could just swap the ribbon cables about, but it seems like it might be a bollock to do that, so I'm hoping I've got this right. I've checked as much as I can online. Right, okay, so I think the next things I put in now are the wee mounting arms, which are these parts here, which are stand-ups that kind of make this stand tall enough to allow the next card to go on. I feel a wee bit like this isn't 1,000,000% lined up, so I'm just going to take a second to just adjust it. Just looking at the holes here, I need to move just ever so slightly to the left, well, to the right here, to allow me to kind of shimmy it. There we go. And I won't tighten anything up until I get the first few of these in. I'm just putting all these in, just tight enough, not super tight. Now, I don't think I'm using these connectors here. I think that's if you're connecting the mic pre's. I'm pretty sure that's what that's for. I think I just need to contend with this cable here. This connector here, sorry, getting into, now, that's the primary one here. Yeah, so I checked, so it certainly looks like the 16x16 should be in the primary slot. In Thunderbolt mode, apparently it doesn't matter so much which order you have them in, but if you're using the mic pre, the 16x16 must be in the primary slot. And if you're using it in Pro Tools mode, well, Pro Tools, the Pro Tools HD module, and you have the 2x6. So if you're using the Pro Tools HD module and you're using the 2x6 card, that must go in the secondary slot, I'm sure. There we go. So it looks like for my setup, I'm fine with using primary slot and then the 2x6 in the secondary slot. So let's get that ribbon cable first of all. Okay, so transferring this ribbon cable over. I'm just going to, so this is the primary slot here, which I'm just seating in. So that takes a wee bit of a push, to be fair. And then I'm going to push this next one into the card itself. That one went in a lot easier, to be fair. There might be a wee bit of squish getting the second ribbon cable in, but I'll suss that out in a wee second. In fact, I might put that in just now before I fit the card. There's the next ribbon cable. It actually took me a while to get a Thunderbolt 2 cable for this thing. I thought I had one lying about, but turns out I don't, and they're really hard to get. There we go. Okay, so the 2x2 card now, I'm going to bring that over, slot it in, and hopefully that's going to sit in there fine. Okay, a wee bit dustier this one with it being in the bottom slot, I think. Okay, so I've got to sit this one on. I'll balance it on here just now. And I'll try and just position it in. So I think if I start from the back, work my way forward, at least that's the hope. Yeah, not quite as easy as I was hoping it was going to be. Okay, that's an issue. It feels like it's miles too high. I don't know if there's a difference in height between these. Oh, it might be. That's a bit of a nightmare if that is the case, because I'm going to need to get these wee standoff. I thought they just transferred over and they were the same height, and they might be. They might actually be, but I think I'm going to need to double check. So give me a second. No, it does seem the top of the bottom of this slot here. Should really have another camera angle here on for you, but I don't. So it seems like I might need to look up a way of getting this in, because this seems very tricky just now. I'm concerned I'm going to damage something at the bottom of the board. Okay, that's a worry. How do I get that in? It seems just like the lip of the actual card itself is sitting proud, that's all it is. It just needs to get past that, so I don't know if I need to lift it in at an angle maybe. Like that. Yeah, I think that's it. Oof. Concerned there I'd missed a part out or something, but that seems to be okay. So what I'm going to do is try and just line up the first couple of screws and then put them in. Sweating there for a wee second, I thought, oh god, I've got the wrong parts. I thought maybe I'd had those kind of wee risers, I had to get other ones, but it turns out I just wasn't putting it in properly. I could probably look at the instructions, which would be a good idea, which I did do at some point, but I just can't remember any wee steps like that. But to be fair, it's pretty straightforward. When you're putting that card in, you've just got to lift it up at an angle. Obviously, I'll get all the screws connected, they all seem to be lined up. Once it's all connected up, I'll get the ribbon cable on, make sure everything's seated properly, it does look to be, and then it will be off next door to the back cave. So I'm bringing all the 16 out, and then I'm bringing them back to a 2-channel stereo recording input. So yeah, I'm not using all 16 in, I'm using actually about a few of them for running effects. But I'm actually bringing all 16 channels out, putting stems out, you know, like having buses for drums, so drums will come out on 2 channels, vocals, backing vocals on another 2, keys, guitars, etc., bass. So I'm bringing all them out of the dot into the Rupert Neve, mixing on the Rupert Neve, and then bringing it back on a 2-track recording in, which, you know, isn't always ideal, because if you're trying to recall mixes and things, for the most part, I'm sort of leaving, I'm not over moving the faders or kind of adjusting things. I'm trying to kind of get it so that it's just running through the box, but there is a wee bit of adjustment there. And I can show you that at another day. I'll probably do a video on how I'm doing my mixes through the Rupert Neve, because I couldn't actually find a lot on it, apart from like really super cool promo stuff at the time. People who are a lot better than me, but for normal people like myself, there wasn't really very much in the way of like just seeing how people are using it, you know, for a smaller studio setup rather than someone who's recording the Smashing Pumpkins or something like that. I think that's the card in. That's both cards in. I believe they're connected to the right slots. I think I've done everything properly. It's now time to get the lid on and take it next door, so I'll put the lid on just now. Right, so hopefully I've done this properly. For anyone that's looking to swap the cards out, wasn't that big a deal, to be fair. Kind of as easy as I thought it might be, but still definitely one to kind of take a wee bit of time over. I did consider for a while jumping on to something else, but for what I'm doing, nothing else really fits the bill. I did consider getting the new cards in here as well, but when I looked them up, there is a difference. I think they're called the AC, the special editions of what's there already, but there wasn't enough of a reason to change, and I just thought, nah, too much of a spend just now. And this is a pretty cool fully loaded box now, so it's going to do its job. I think the old ones you could still, I think there's a standalone mode, I think you could still use them in a standalone mode. I'm not entirely sure how that works. Maybe I could have kept the chassis just for that, but I don't really have a use for it just now, and really, frankly, didn't want to spend any more money on it. I don't know if I'm going to go back to working in the box. That option's there because the hybrid way of working can be a little bit of a nuisance, to be fair, because you've got the added hassle of recalling mixes, and you know, even if I do open up something when I'm away on my laptop or whatever to have a look at a mix, I don't have the same outboard gear there. I don't have the outputs routed, so I need to reroute everything or route everything to hear it out my headphones and stuff like that, so it does sort of break the mixing and recording setup up for me, but in a way I like that. I like that when it's recorded, and when I'm mixing, I'm in the back cave mixing, and that's all I'm doing there. So that's our setup now. We'll go and put her in place and see how it sets up and how it gets on with the Mac. Always seems to take a while for my keyboard to connect after a restart for some reason. Sweet. And then now we'll install this one. So after some messing about, turns out that actually there wasn't a problem with the connections. The problem was with the software. So in my infinite wisdom, I updated my Mac to the latest OS. That was having some problems. I don't think that was the main issue though. It was some extensions that had to be turned on or turned off. I can't remember. Thanks to the guys at MediaSpec in Glasgow, their support, a quick phone call, and them connecting to my machine got it working. So you can see it's all working here. All 16 ins and outs are all working, and yeah, a successful install.